What's up, everybody? It's John here from VidGamiac.com. Here we are today back in Overwatch's Uprising event, going for the big one, the Distinguished Service Achievement. This is going to be to beat Uprising on Legendary difficulty. This one is going to have to be done in story mode, so make sure you keep that in mind. You are going to have to use the default 4 characters in the form of Tracer, Reinhardt, Torbjorn, and Mercy. Alright, so the mission is going to open up. Your team is going to be in the subway tunnels. Just make sure you follow the train tracks until you get to the next station. You're going to hop onto the platform and then take the stairs up, and this is going to take you on to the streets. You're going to get some debriefing in the dialogue, but nothing is going to be too difficult since there's only basic enemies right here. Basically, you are going to be told to capture the first hacking point right here by the garage to take out this gun battery. So once you see the gun battery, you're going to head into the garage. You're going to need to have at least one person stand on the point in order to capture it. Basically, you're trying to fill out that counter to 100%. Basic strategy for this one, you want to make sure you have the Mercy player stand on the point, and then you want to have the Tracer player hit up the staircase, and then the Reinhardt and the Torbjorn are going to take the left side where the street is. Make sure the Torbjorn player pops their turret down in front of the doorway, that way you get some extra firepower, and make sure the Mercy player is calling if any enemies do spawn in the garage, that way someone can come down to help her out. And then what you want to do is you want to make sure you have the Mercy player heal and buff everyone who's going to be in the doorway, so just switch on and off of the Torbjorn and the Reinhardt, and you should be able to keep everyone healthy. The Tracer, of course, can use her rewind feature to mitigate a ton of damage, so make sure you have her take advantage of that. That way she won't need to come down for healing all of the time. So a pretty sound strategy, and the first point should be super duper easy to capture since there's going to be basically 2 choke points right here. If anyone does land into any significant trouble, they can always pull back to the garage and the Mercy can pick them up. But once you capture the point, it's time to move on. 2 main paths to the next objective. You can either take the indoors route, which is going to take you through the buildings, or you can take the street. Shouldn't really matter since there are no enemies along the way until the 2 paths converge. So just pick a path and then just make sure you follow it. Just try your best to keep the team together. And then what you want to do is you want to make your way to the second gun battery, which is also going to happen to have the second point. So this point's going to be a little more challenging to capture. You basically want to have the Torbjorn player drop their turret right here at this gate. The Tracer player is going to use her dash to get to the back where the church is, and then she can flank all of the enemies. The Mercy player is going to hunker down in this corner right here. It's going to be the upper left corner of the point, and then you're just going to try to heal everyone within the point. So Tracer is going to do their best job to try to take out all of the enemies that appear on the street side from behind. Mercy, Reinhardt, and Torbjorn are going to hang back at the point to try to capture it, but also thin out the enemies right here. This one's going to be a little tricky since enemies are going to spawn in from every direction. Depending on the bulk of enemies spawning in a specific direction is going to be completely random, so you're going to have to adjust your strategy depending on where the volume of enemies are. Try your best to capture the point as quickly as possible, and make sure you do watch your back as an enemy can spawn behind you and give you a ton of trouble. Just make sure you try to back up if you do end up in said trouble. Everyone is going to make their way over to the church. You can have the Tracer player or the Torbjorn player throw up their ultimate to clear out the front door, and everyone's going to push ahead into the church to capture the third and final point attached to the gun battery in the belfry of said church. Thankfully, this point is going to be indoors, and it is going to have choke points. So what you want to do is you want to make sure you have the Torbjorn player pop up their turret by the left door. You want to make sure you have the Tracer player take care of the staircase, and the Reinhardt is going to take care of the front door. If you do a good enough job of protecting the front door, no enemies should come in from the left, so you can worry about that less and have the turret do all of the work. But you are going to want to have the Torbjorn player and the Mercy player stay on the point, and then just take turns healing and buffing people. So just make sure you fly back and forth. You are mostly going to work on the Reinhardt, who's going to be taking the bulk of the damage. So try to have the Mercy stay towards the front of the point, and then try to pick the Reinhardt back up or buff him if he is at full health. No enemies should spawn in from behind, so you don't really have to worry about that. And again, if you do a good enough job of holding the front door, you only have to worry about it and the staircase. So just make sure you take care of that, and this point is going to be another easy capture. Once all 3 points are captured, everyone is going to rendezvous over by the payloads. Make sure you head back outside. Make sure you be careful of stragglers who are still out on the street. Everyone's going to head over here. There's going to be a rendezvous point, which is going to be this payload right over here. Do keep in mind the next sequence isn't going to start until all 4 players are on the payload, so you can take this time to do some prep work. You can have everyone work on building up their ultimates, but more importantly, what you want to do is you want to make sure you have the Torbjorn player take the staircase up, walk across the balcony, and then head into this building. There should be an open window right over here to the left facing the payload. You can have the Torbjorn player place their turret here, which is going to give it a nice bird's eye view and make it pretty much invulnerable to most of the enemies for the next crescendo part. Be a little careful of some stragglers who may wander in. Make sure you don't let them catch you off guard. If not, you can always just kill them and then just heal everyone up. But once everyone is ready to start the next part, make sure you have everyone hop on the payload and the crescendo part should start. So once everyone's ready, everyone should hop on the point to start one of the harder parts of the run, but this is going to be the basic setup. You're going to want to have the Mercy player stand on the point. Torbjorn is going to hang out in the little right corner with the turret in the window. Tracer is going to hang out in the back corner right here to flank the enemies. She's also going to take advantage of the little building in the middle to get from the left to the right to flank enemies, and Reinhardt's going to pretty much stay in the middle and be the main damage dealer. The Mercy player should spend the bulk of her time trying to buff the Reinhardt, as you are going to want the Reinhardt to do most of the damage dealing. So just make sure you keep this up. The first part is going to be relatively easy, as the first minute is just going to contain normal enemies. The 3 types of normal enemies are going to be the Null Troopers, which are just your basic damage dealer. They can only damage the players, so they shouldn't give you too much trouble around the point. You're going to have the Slicers, which are going to be the little guys. Those guys can deal damage to the point, so make sure you take care of them before they get too close. And then finally, you have the Eradicators, who are going to be the bulky guys that are going to put up their shields. You're going to need to hit them from behind once they pop up their shields. Generally, the strategy for dealing with them is to make sure you shoot off their arm with the shield before they can put it up, and that way you can have an easier time of dealing with them. Of course, it wouldn't be a defense kind of game mode without an enemy who's going to deal a significant amount of damage to the point, and this enemy is going to appear in the form of a bomb. Thankfully, they are going to be scripted based to the clock, so the first one is going to pop up around the 2-minute and 52 mark. It's always going to appear on the left. What you want to do is make sure you have the Reinhardt player stand where it's going to spawn, and you want to make sure you have the Mercy player buff the Reinhardt. Keep backing up and then keep swinging at the bomb, and hopefully you should be able to destroy it before it can blow up and deal a significant amount of damage to the point. Next one's going to be on the right side at 2 minutes and 32. Again, same thing, head over to the right side. If the Torbjorn player has their ultimate, they can also take advantage of that to blow up the bomb, since the right path is going to be a way shorter lane than the left path. If you get into a pinch and the bomb is getting too close, you can use Reinhardt's dash ability to try to knock it away, and that should buy you a little extra time. Whenever the Reinhardt player does use his dash, be very careful with it. You definitely want to try to pin the enemies against the wall, as if you push something too far away, you're going to leave the group and then overextend yourself and have a lot of trouble getting back, which of course the Reinhardt also has to keep up with dealing with the normal enemies. At 1 minute and 52, you're going to have the first Bastion come in. It can appear from either side, so make sure someone calls out for it, as you definitely want to prioritize taking it out, as especially on Legendary difficulty, it's going to do a significant amount of damage to the players. Make sure the Mercy is buffing the Reinhardt, and make sure you try to take out the Bastion as quickly as possible. Make sure you try to pin him against the wall, and then just keep swinging, and then hopefully he goes down before he can mount into turret mode to gun everyone down. At 1 minute and 24, you're going to have another Bastion pop in. Again, this one's going to be random, so make sure you have someone call for it. Once you notice it, the Bastion player is going to want to dash and pin it against the wall. Mercy is going to try to buff the whole time, and then hopefully you should be able to take that one out rather quickly, and then make sure you get everyone back in place. In the meanwhile, while dealing with the Bastions, the Torbjorn player can replace his turret if it's been taking a significant amount of damage, but once you get past the minute mark, you're going to have a bomb pop up on the left side. You have a little bit of a break here, so make sure you definitely take this time to pick everyone back up. Once the bomb appears, make sure the Bastion starts swinging for the fences, and then hopefully you can take that one out. So once you take care of that bomb, that's going to leave us with the Bastion that pops up at 44 seconds. Again, it could be completely random, so hopefully you get it on a favorable side, but once you notice it, make sure you call out for it, make sure the Bastion pins it against the wall, and then start swinging for the fences, and then hopefully you can take it out before it can land any significant amount of damage. If it does mount into turret mode, it's going to heal itself quite frequently, but you can circumvent that by having the Bastion just circle and smack it, and then hopefully you should be able to take it out quicker than it can heal itself. Quickly head to the left side as you're going to have another bomb drop in at 19 seconds. Same strategy, make sure the Bastion starts smacking it around with the Mercy buffing it. Try your best to take out that bomb before it gets to the payload. We're going to have another Bastion come in at 17 seconds, although because the clock is going to run out soon, we should be safe, as once the clock hits 0, all of the enemies are going to die. So try not to take any ill-advised risk in dealing with that Bastion, as the timer is going to most likely kill it before you can. Once everyone's ready, you're going to need to escort the payload to the final area. As long as you kept the payload health above 40%, you should be able to get things there a-okay. So just make sure you have the Torbjorn player move their turret onto the payload. You can pop it either on the back or the front. Tracer's going to watch the front of the payload. Reinhardt and Mercy are going to hang out on the back, and Torbjorn is going to stay on the payload. Your goal is to watch out for the first tank Bastion who can spawn in a random location. It's most likely going to spawn at the starting location, so make sure you keep an eye out for it. You want to make sure you try to take it out before it can get anywhere near the payload. So again, make sure you have the Mercy buff and heal the Reinhardt, and the Reinhardt is just going to smack the tank, and then hopefully you can take it out before it gets even close to the payload. It can also appear in the front or the little staircase back there, which is going to give you a ton of trouble because it's going to be closer to the payload. Try your best to deal with it wherever it spawns, though, but you do have to get a little lucky on that first spawn point. Once the payload rounds the first corner, you're going to have the last bomb drop in. You definitely want to make sure you have the Torbjorn drop their ultimate on the bomb. Make sure the Mercy player first buffs the Torbjorn, and then as soon as the bomb gets past its magma pool, make sure you switch your buffing onto the Reinhardt, and the Reinhardt should finish off the bomb a-okay. Then we're going to have a bunch of normal enemies. Again, make sure you are mindful of the slicers, as they are going to be the major damage dealers to the payload. The Eradicators are going to be the main damage dealers to the players, so make sure you watch out for them, especially when they spawn in these windows or on these ledges right here. Just be mindful of where they spawn and make sure you try to keep up with everyone. Once you round this corner and pass this alleyway, the next Bastion should pop up. Make sure you are mindful of him. You can use Torbjorn's ultimate or Tracer's ultimate to deal with him really quickly, so he isn't too bad as long as you kept up with the regular enemies and everyone is free to use an ultimate on that Bastion. Once you round this last corner right here, you are going to get to the final push. Make sure you are vigilant for the last couple of Bastions. They can appear from anywhere, so make sure you are vigilant for them and make sure people are calling out for them once they spot them. So either on the main road right here, on that little staircase, or from the subway tunnel. The Bastion can also appear from the other side of the street right over there. So make sure you are mindful of him. Basically, you want to make sure the Torbjorn and the Tracer are looking out for him, and the Reinhardt is going to do their best job of cleaning up any of the slicers. Once you take out the third Bastion tank, there should be one more that pops up once the payload is crossing the finish line. Again, it can spawn from anywhere, so make sure you are staying vigilant for it and make sure that your team is calling out for it if someone does spot him. So hopefully he spawns on the main road, that way you have as much time to try to wait it out. Put up Reinhardt's shield and make sure everyone gets ready to try to take it out. Make sure the Mercy player is buffing the appropriate damage dealer. Of course, a well-placed Reinhardt dash is always going to be a lifesaver, as you can always pin the Bastion against the wall, and then you should be able to deliver the payload a-okay. Once the payload is at the door, what you want to do is you want to make sure everyone hunkers down at the bottom right corner of the door. This way you can skip the explosion animation of the payload that would normally knock everyone back, and you can enter the building a lot quicker. So once you enter the building, your goal is to immediately head for the back right corner. So Reinhardt is going to take point. Everyone's going to follow him. Mercy is going to buff him along the way. Make sure the Reinhardt player gets over here, and they're going to use their dash to pin the first Bastion turret against the back wall with the Mercy buffing him all the way. Quickly finish him off, and everyone's going to dip into this office right here. Tracer is going to now take point and then head across the main hallway to the next ledge right here. Then you want to have the Mercy player pick up both the Torbjorn and the Reinhardt. Mercy is going to be the next one to take the trip across the hallway, so make sure you get her over here safely, and then the Torbjorn and the Reinhardt are going to follow suit with the Reinhardt putting up his shield. Make sure you get across this ledge into this room. Next Bastion turret's going to be right here. Have Reinhardt put up his shield, and Torbjorn and Tracer are going to take it out from behind the shield. Hopefully you can take it out while the shield is still up, and then you can get into this corner. Reinhardt's going to put up his shield again, and then use his dash to take out the third Bastion turret in this corner. Everyone can kind of hunker down in this corner spawn room right here for a second. You definitely want to make sure the Reinhardt is at full health before you make this last push. Make sure you take the ramp down. The Mercy is going to want to try to buff the Reinhardt along the way. Tracer and Torbjorn are going to hang back to deal with the normal enemies, but once you hit up the staircase, you're going to want to make sure the Reinhardt dashes and then takes out the last of the Bastion turrets. So once you take care of that, we can move all the way back to the front and then deal with what we were supposed to be doing, which is taking out the Orissas. Now, the reason we took care of the Bastion turrets first is because every time we take out an Orissa, a tank Bastion is going to spawn. So now that all the turrets are dealt with, we should be free to work on the first Orissa. If you can, try to have the Reinhardt dasher outside of the building. If you can do that, that should actually mess up her AI. If not, you can always use Tourbillon's ultimate to try to Molten Core her, and if you can try to stun her while she's in the Molten Core, that should deal a significant amount of damage, and you should be able to get through that A-okay. You definitely want to make sure everyone is hanging around the front of the building right here, because you want to take out the first tank Bastion that spawns in before moving on to the fight with the second Orissa. Make sure you do mind that time limit, though. You are going to have a time limit for this part, and you definitely don't want that limit creeping up on you. Now, the Bastion can spawn inside the building, however, he can also spawn outside and then come on in, so make sure you watch both ends. Try your best to deal with it the best you can. The best strategy is to have Reinhardt put up his shield, and then hopefully Tracer can use her ultimate, which is going to be the sticky bomb, to try to stick him. You have to be a little careful, as Tracer does have to get pretty close since the arc of the sticky bomb isn't too great, but definitely do try to get rid of that first tank as quick as you can. Make sure you move your way up. Torbjorn is going to want to pop their turret at this S-shaped turn right here. Definitely try to get the Reinhardt back up to full health the best you can. You can use this little S-shaped turn to heal everyone, but that second Orissa is going to round the corner eventually. So once she does, everyone's going to want to try to get in on her the best they can. Take advantage of everyone's ultimates, and then once everyone is safe, make sure you head up back to this high ground area right here. Make sure everyone is staying very vigilant on the second tank Bastion. It can spawn from either the middle, which is going to probably be the best place to try to work on it since it's a big open area without a ton of enemies. It also happens to get stuck on the staircase quite often there. It can also spawn in the back left corner right here, which is going to be a little troublesome since it's so close to the final area. If that happens, you're going to have to slowly push up, but then you can take advantage of the nice, long, and straight high ground area right here. Reinhardt is going to want to get his shield up right here. If not, you can always use his charge to try to close the distance, or you can pop his shield up and then have the Tracer with her ultimate stay behind him and then pop a sticky bomb on him, and then hopefully you should be able to take him out while he's in this back room. Be very, very careful of dealing with the Bastion in these tight corridors, though. Hopefully you can take it out before it takes you out, and then just make sure you try to pick everyone up right here. Everyone is going to want to hunker down in this back corner, and then we're going to make our last push on the last two Orissas. So Tracer is going to want to hang back and then deal with any of the normal enemies from the high ground, and then everyone is going to try their best to get into the backmost room. Torbjorn's ultimate is going to be very helpful for cover, and then of course Reinhardt's shield is going to provide some nice additional cover. Now, whoever makes it to this back room is going to want to spend the bulk of their time taking out the Orissa's amplifiers. The reason for that is you want to have their damage output go down. If someone does get caught out in the open, you can have the Reinhardt player step out, pop up their shield, and then get a quick revive in this way. Mercy's instant revive is also going to be very useful, but try not to use it unless you have her ultimate or are behind Reinhardt's shield, as trying to exit this room is going to be pretty much a death sentence under all that Orissa fire. But once you get a majority of players in this back room, you should be pretty good. What you basically want to do is the Reinhardt is going to dip in and out of this room. The Mercy player is just going to heal him all of the time, and then he's just going to smack the Orissas out. Hopefully you can take out one, which should thin the firepower down a bit. Torbjorn should also move his turret out here to protect one of the doors, and then hopefully you can accomplish this and no one else goes down. The Mercy player is definitely going to want to save their insta-revives for when the Reinhardt does go down. If Reinhardt is getting low, make sure you try to have him die as close as he can to the wall. That way you can try to pick him up from behind the wall so you're not running out into fire. And then if you can get the Reinhardt back up, he should get back to smacking the Orissas out. And then hopefully you can take out both of them before the third Bastion tank can show up to the last area, which of course will mess things up. So if you can pull that all off within the time limit, you should be good for the win on Legendary. There's the achievement. 15 gamer score for this one, and that's all there is to it.